There's probably nothing more important to your chess development than mastering the core mating patterns I'm going to show you right now. If you are looking to improve in chess, and I mean really improve, commit to mastering the 15 high-yield mating patterns we will cover in this video. They are so solid and so easy to execute that even a monkey could use them to win. But first, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. We are building a vibrant community of enthusiastic chess players on this channel, and we want you to be a part of it. Our first checkmate is Anastasia's mate. In this checkmate, the knight covers the escape squares so a queen or rook can checkmate along a rank or file. Style points if you open up the file with a sweet sacrifice like in this example. White plays queen takes h7 check, king takes h7, rook h5 check with the knight covering the escape squares. Can black use Anastasia's mate in this position? Yes, they can. First, after knight e2 check, king h1, black opens up the file with queen takes h2, and after king takes h2, rook takes h4 checkmate. The second checkmate is Arabian Mate, which is characterized by cooperation between the rook and knight. This is a form of Arabian Mate. This is a slightly different form of Arabian Mate. Using the Arabian Mate, can you spot the winning moves for white in this position? After queen takes f8, king takes f8, rook e8 check, king g7, white wins with rook g8 checkmate. Checkmate number 3 is Philidor's mate, one of the most famous combinations in Czech. The attacker uses a double check to achieve an aesthetically pleasing smothered mate. After knight f7 check, king g8, knight h6, double check, king h8, queen g8 check, rook takes g8, knight f7 checkmate. In this position, can white use Philidor's mate to checkmate their opponent? Sure they can. After knight h6, king h8, queen g8 check, rook takes g8, knight f7 checkmate. Checkmate number 4 is semi-smothered mate. This is similar to smothered mate, but one of the escape squares is covered by a piece. In this example, white can win with queen h7 check, knight takes h7, knight g6 checkmate the bishop covering the escape square. Can black win using a semi-smothered mate in this position? Sure they can. After knight g4, black sacrifices the queen to gain a smothered mate with knight takes f2 checkmate. Checkmate 5 is Damiano's mate. Damiano knew the value of a well-placed pawn. Apparently, a well-placed pawn can be worth 2 rooks. Here, white wins with rook h8 check, rook h8 check again, and finally the queen comes over into the action, and queen h7 is checkmate. In this position, black wants to use Damiano's mate to win, but how does black open the h-file? Well, after knight g3 check, h takes g3, h takes g3 check, king g1, black can now sacrifice both of their rooks to get the queen into the attack. After king g1, queen h2 check, king f1, queen h1 is checkmate. Checkmate 6 is not a checkmate at all, but it is such a deadly tactic that it's getting included, and it's the seesaw. In this position, white can win a ton of material by simply playing rook g7 check, and after the king moves to h8, white can set up a discovered check with the bishop, and this sequence can repeat itself such that white ends up picking off all of the material on black's second rank. In this example, can black use the seesaw to gain a lot of material? After rook e2, black exploiting the pin of the white queen to the white king, rook takes g2 check sets up the seesaw. Black ends up picking off all of white's pawns on the second rank and winning back their queen. Checkmate number 7 is Blackburn's mate. There's nothing quite like giving up a queen to checkmate with your pieces. In this position, queen takes h5, g takes h5, queen h7 checkmate, with the bishop on b2 covering escape squares. Can black use Blackburn's mate in this position to win? Sure. After queen takes h4, g takes h4, bishop takes h2, checkmate. Checkmate number 8 is Boden's mate, one of the most beautiful checkmates you've ever seen. In this position, white can win with queen takes c6 check. After b takes c6, bishop a6 is checkmate. Can white win with Boden's mate in this position? After knight takes a7 check, bishop takes a7, queen takes c6, b takes c6, bishop a6 is checkmate. Checkmate number 9 is Lasker's famous double bishop sacrifice. In this position, white can win with bishop takes h7 check. After king takes h7, white gets their queen to the attack with tempo, and then white sacrifices their other bishop to completely obliterate black's kingside pawns. After king takes g7, queen g4 check, king h8, white's rook comes to f3 with the plan of eventually coming to the h-file for checkmate. Does Lasker's double bishop sacrifice work when there's a pawn on g5? Sure. After bishop takes h7 check, king takes h7, the queen comes into the attack with tempo, white sacrifices their other bishop, and after king takes g7, queen h6 check, king g8, white's going to get their rook involved, and they'll have plenty of time to checkmate black on the h-file. Who doesn't love a checkmate from Mr. Morphy? Checkmate number 10 is Morphy's mate, where the rook and bishop work together to checkmate the king. This is a famous example from a game played between Paulson and Morphy. Morphy, with the black pieces, starts the attack off with a brilliant queen sacrifice. Queen takes f3. After g takes f3, rook g6 check, king h1, bishop f3. White played rook d1, and after bishop d2 check, king g1, bishop takes f3 check, king f1, rook g2. White found the best defensive move, which is queen d3, but Morphy was too good. After rook takes f2, king g1, rook g2 check, king h1, rook g1, double check, mate. A brilliant, brilliant cooperation between Morphy's bishops and his rook. Checkmate number 11 is Greco's mate. Greco played during the Renaissance, so you know this one's going to be good. After bishop takes f7, king h8, white plays queen g6, threatening checkmate on h7. Black has no choice but to take the knight on g5, opening up the h-file. Queen h5 is checkmate. In this position, can black use the principles in Greco's mate to checkmate his opponent? Sure he can. Queen g3 threatens checkmate on h2. Black is forced to take with the h-pawn, and after black captures back with the h-pawn, now the h-file is wide open for black to come down and checkmate. After rook d1, queen h2 check, king f1, queen h1 is checkmate. The Greek gift is a very high-yield combination that you often see in games after the French defense is played in the opening. It starts with bishop takes h7 check, after king takes h7, knight g5 check, king g8, queen h5, threatening checkmate on h7, for instance g6, queen h7 checkmate. And the Greek gift even works if the opponent tries to maneuver their king out to g6. For instance, after bishop takes h7 check, king takes h7, knight g5, if the king comes to g6, white has the opportunity to set up some nasty discovered checks with queen g4, and even after f5, queen g3. That knight's going to come alive with a really nasty discovery on the king. Like Damiano, Lolly also understood the importance of a well-placed pawn. This is checkmate number 13, Lollies Mate. Here, white maneuvers their queen to checkmate on g7, and while black can defend with their rook on g8, all white needs to do is add another attacker, and checkmate is imminent. In this position, the black rook covers the g7 square. How can white win in this position? Well, after rook c8, black has no choice but to take the rook, or their own rook will fall. So after rook takes c8, queen g7 checkmate. Back rank mates are checkmate number 14. And who hasn't been back rank mated? Here's a classic example. The bishop covers the escape square. In this position, can white set up a back rank checkmate? Sure they can. After queen takes f7, rook takes f7, rook e8 is checkmate. The rook on f7 cannot block check because it's pinned by the bishop. Our 15th and final checkmate is Legalmate, which is a checkmate that happens in the opening. Here, Legal shows us that a bishop and two knights is really more important than a queen. After knight takes e5, bishop takes d1, bishop takes f7 check, king e7, knight d5, and what a checkmate right in the opening. This is another position where Legal's mate is possible. After knight takes e5, bishop takes d1, bishop b5 check, black has forced a block check with c6, and after d takes c6, there's really not a good move for black. If black, for instance, plays queen c7, c takes b7 with the discover check on the king, and after king d8, knight takes f7 is checkmate. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. These 15 checkmates are so important to know and to master. Doing so will really help you out, especially at the intermediate levels of chess. If you're between 1200 and 1800, these tactics and these mating patterns are great to just master and use against your opponents. Thanks for watching this video. New videos coming every week. You won't want to miss it. See you next time.